I've always been very ambitious from quite an early age, actually. Always loved to perform, and actually I really pursued a career in dance, and I went to Performing Arts College, and I always wanted to sing, but I didn't really have a lot of confidence in my voice. And I'd left college and I'd been unemployed for about a year when I auditioned for a girl band. And I was very excited, and I said to all my mates, this is it, this is what I want to do. You know, I don't want to be a dancer, I want to do this. And luckily it happened, so, you know, I became a Spice Girl. There was an audition at a dance studio in London, and I think we were in groups of about 20 or something, and there was hundreds of girls there. And we had to dance to an Eternal song, just freestyle. Oh, to do it now I'd be mortified. And then we went in. I think they picked girls from like the dancing who looked all right, you know, could keep in time. And then, you know, we would go in and sing a piece with a pianist. We actually got together as a band in 1993. And we released our first single in 1996. For 3 years, we were, you know, we were becoming professionals, darling. No, we were slogging, we were working hard, we were working together vocally, you know, we were working together with harmonies. We did, in the early days, we did a bit of writing, we were doing other people's tracks, we did showcases, and then we really got into, we left our first manager. We were on our own for about a year. And we'd met lots of producers and co-writers, and we started working, and we'd actually written an album's worth of material. And we went along, we were looking for managers, and that's when we met Simon Fuller. So we actually went to Simon Fuller with the first album written, and all looking like we did, very individual with our whole girl power thing going on. So there's a bit of a misconception that we were, you know, manufactured. We appeared to be very manufactured. We were very well marketed, but we'd actually done most of the groundwork ourselves. It was something that we didn't really speak about that much, but we all had a feeling that we were going to do it, and we were going to be massive, and that was kind of our thing. It was like world domination. That was our phrase. We just wanted to conquer the world. And also in the early days, we'd come up against a lot of sexism, really, because boy bands were really big at the time. They'd been selling loads of records for years. Girl bands did okay, but never nothing, you know, to compare with what boy bands were doing. So that got our backs up a little bit. So that's where the whole girl power thing came from. And then, you know, when we started going around record companies, there was a lot of interest, and it started getting really exciting. There was a big buzz in the industry about us. And from that day, it just flew, you know, first single came out, and they were saying, you know, top 10, and we were like, oh. And it was like, it went in at number 3, and we just couldn't believe it. Next week it was number 1, stayed at number 1 for 7 weeks. And from that day until, you know, we completed the tour in '98, our feet didn't touch the ground. As time goes on, I look back at the Spice Girls more and more fondly. But at the time, it was very, very hard because you're exhausted. A lot of travelling, miss your family. But at the same time, it's the most amazing thing that could happen to anybody who would wish that upon themselves. You know, I'm really grateful that it happened to me, but it was tough. Although there are a lot of these pop shows and, you know, talent shows and pop idol things, I don't think that they really realise what they're getting themselves into. And I think it's quite worrying as well, because, you know, obviously they've all been spawned from the success of the Spice Girls. And, you know, record companies see something works, makes money, and they jump on the bandwagon. So, you know, a lot of these kids are, you know, really being used as pawn. I was probably one of the quieter members of the band. And I don't know, you know, I suppose I had a few issues with myself, really. I always wanted to be more of an extrovert, but I wasn't. And I wasn't ready to accept that about myself. So I did give myself quite a hard time in the early days. And then, you know, in the latter days of the Spice Girls, once we completed the world tour in '98 and I went and started recording Northern Star, I had this newfound freedom and I had such a great time. And I thought, oh, I can't be doing with all that band politics and, you know, and having to compromise musically and as an individual, you know, even in interviews I'd you know, be really worried about everything that I said because it would reflect on the other girls. And I just thought, oh, I could get used to this. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for me as a Spice Girl. Well, I think, you know, we'd all decided to take a break after the world tour ended because we were all so tired. And Melanie and Victoria were pregnant, of course, but I wasn't ready to stop. And I was, you know, really eager to get into the studio and do some solo work. And that's when, you know, I got itchy feet. I think it was something I always wanted to do. When I had dreams and ambitions as a child to be a pop star, it was never in a band. You know, I wanted to be like Madonna. And so I never realised I'd be lucky enough to be in a band, especially the biggest girl band that ever existed, you know. You don't think that's going to happen to you. So when that did happen to me, I still had the dream of doing stuff on my own. I bumped into him, we were in LA, and I was touring with the girls, and I just bumped into him in a hotel elevator. And he just came over and said hello to my mum because she's a massive fan. And he was really, really sweet. We swapped numbers, and then he just called me up when he come home and, you know, and said, I've got this track I'd like you to sing on. Having the opportunity to work with Bryan Adams was another big confidence builder. You know, he's a fantastic musician. He's an old pro, you know, and to want to work with me. And I think to be picked out of the Spice Girls as well, I want to work with that one, it was like very flattering. So that did give me a lot more confidence. I'm very insecure, you know, about my talent, if I've got any, you know, but I just know I love to do it. And up until now, I've been pretty successful. So, so I must be doing something right. But, you know, these people were interested in working with me. And it was difficult to go into the studio on my own because, you know, I am quite shy. But they were so lovely and I had so much support and they were really, really encouraging. And it gave me a lot of confidence in myself because, you know, these fabulous producers and, you know, writers and musicians were saying such lovely things about me and you know, really helping me out that it made me think, well, I think because I had the opportunity to do that. And I don't want to miss out on anything. And also, I find it really difficult to say no to people too. But luckily, I haven't really wanted to say no to anyone because most of the people that have wanted to work with me, I've been big fans of their previous work. And on meeting them, they've been really great people and we've had a really good rapport. And it wasn't that that anybody wasn't allowing me to have that freedom in the band. It was that it wasn't right for the band. You know, I was part of this band and my role in this band, you know, was a certain thing. But as an individual, you know, I had a whole new thing. I thought I could do something good. I had the confidence in myself that I could come up with something good. But when it was finished, I was like, I didn't think it would be that good. I was really, really pleased, really quite shocked. And, you know, quite naively, I thought, the world's going to love it, you know, and everyone's going to accept me as a solo artist. But it didn't quite work out like that. It took quite a bit of time for people to realise that there was more to me than Sporty Spice. At the time, it was difficult, but the audience was pretty much split 50-50, you know. Half of them were listening and quite intrigued, and half of them just didn't want to know, and there was a good few bottles chucked at me. But it was great, you know what, I'm so glad I did it, because since that, nothing has been as difficult as that, you know. So it was a good start, thrown in at the deep end. I'm from a very working class background, so I don't know any other way really, and I wouldn't want success like that. I really truly believe that I want to work for everything that I achieve. So so that's what I did, and you know, luckily a few of the tunes were very radio friendly and I got big singles, but I just toured and toured and toured. And, you know, got lots of support from my fans. If I'd have gone straight in with a #1 with my first single, I think I would have felt it was off the back of the Spice Girls. And now, you know, with my solo work, I really do feel responsible for the success of things. I mean, there are hundreds of people involved in making the record, in promoting the record. You know, I've got my band, so many people involved. It's not just me. But, you know, I do feel responsible for the success, whereas you know, before I would have maybe thought, well, that's because I was a Spice Girl. I've got lots of Spice Girls fans, but you know, they're all growing up too. And it did broaden as well. There was more guys in the audience, 20-somethings, 30-somethings. Got a big gay and lesbian following. So, you know, it's a big fan base and it's really nice. You actually feel sick. You physically feel ill when you read something about yourself. But as time goes on, they write more and more, and it gets more and more ridiculous, or it gets more and more cruel, and it just becomes to not really matter anymore. And although I don't think you ever completely get used to it and it never affects you, you get more used to it and you can kind of, you know, it hurts less and less. It does get you like that, and you know, and it's such a shame. I was talking to George Michael last night. I was doing Top of the Pops and he was there, and he was saying the same thing. You know, love to make music, love to perform music, and it's such a shame that so much crap comes with it, and it does almost put you off doing it. It really, really does. But there's something inside you that makes you want to carry on. It's not as bad as it could be. I think, you know, there is a slight element, as much respect as you can have from the tabloids. I think I've got a slight bit, because they know I'm not playing the game. I actually went back in just to see what was going to happen. I wasn't definitely going in to make a second record at that point. I mean, there was definitely going to be a second album, but at the time it was like, let's just see. Let's see what happens. Most of the time I don't even think. I go, I'll meet somebody, go into the studio and see what happens. And for me, you know, I like to keep it like that. It is very easy. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a bit lazy. I don't know. But, you know, but it works. I think it's, you know, it's all in there, so it's got to come out eventually. In one of the first sessions I was working with Marius de Vries, and one of the first songs we started working on was Here It Comes Again. And that was the song that made me go, right, this is it, we're starting the second album. This is going to be a single, and you know, it's going to be on the record. So that was the start of the album. I started in November 2001, and then it was mastered at the end of January 2003. So I think that's 15 months. It's long enough. It's not too long, and it's long enough. And then when it came to the album title, it was like, because it's quite a tough one. And I just felt Reason was quite appropriate. You know, for me, I love to make music. I love to perform music. For me, music is my reason. So without wanting to sound cheesy, that's why. Because he wanted to work with me, and you know, I knew that he'd done a lot of soundtracks and a great track with Björk, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm working with David Arnold. You know, people would go, oh, you're working with David Arnold? I'd be like, why? And they're like, oh my God, he is amazing. You know, and people started really freaking me out, and I was thinking, oh, intimidation. So I met him, and he lives very close to me actually. So we were working in a local studio, which I can walk to in 10 minutes from my house, which was great. And he is just a scream. Great guy, loads of fun. And we just hit it off straight away. And, you know, the first song we wrote together, Home, and, you know, I love it. And hopefully, you know, I'll work with him again. I mean, I can't speak for all of the girls, but for me, the band was over anyway. I think it'd run its course, really. I think all the Spice Girls feel the same. It's so funny, isn't it? We still call ourselves Spice Girls, but we are, and we're very proud. But you know what? Leave it where it was. It was great at the time. We couldn't do it again. It'd be an embarrassment.